Hello everyone, and thanks Nicole and thanks Casper. My name is Saket Agrahari, and I work as a software developer for GAN. So the topic that I'll be covering today is Open API garnering trust and collaboration among NRENs. So in today's tech industry, the scenario is that we wrote the specs for the system, but once we try to dig down the rabbit hole of functionality, we don't know what it is doing in production. So OpenAPI comes up to the rescue for this, and what it does is it tries to bridge the gap that is there between your code and your documentation. So what happens is that your code is in version 2 or your API is in version 2, but your documentation is still on version 1. So OpenAPI tries to bridge this gap, and what it tries to do is provide the sync between two. And let's take an example. When an NREN ships its code with an OpenAPI specs, what it does is it imparts trust. It imparts trust in this partner that the API will not be abruptly deprecated. The API's request and response will not be modified without prior notification, and the backward compatibility will be supported. The partners, with taking this trust into consideration as a contract, they can parallelly build their automation and build an artifact around that, documentation tooling, notification, email notifications, and what they also can do is do the feedback, give the feedback to NREN, and once they give the feedback, they can harden the specs so that it's the better fit for them. So feedback, as we discussed, as we heard the keynote speaker today, feedback is the key success to your experimentation. And if you want to build a product for your consumer, it's better to take them in the earlier stage rather than working in silos and ending up in a mess. And nothing is different for APIs. Open APIs, you have to do the same as well. So this is the look and feel of the Open API portal, where you think of it as a marketplace, where you have an API listed, all your APIs are listed, your mock request and response are being listed, and you get to see all the APIs that you have exposed to your consumers. Now, the limitation with this is that we don't deal with the actual public data that is being exposed. So we need something infrastructure which have a controlled environment and mimics the design that we have in mind with public data. So what we are proposing is that you put your specs on OpenAPI, and then on the front end, you put a Postman, which will basically sending your scripts to acting as the front end and sending your scripts to the Glitch, as you can see from the URL below. So what is Glitch? Glitch is basically a rapid action development tool that does the controller logic in this part. It validates the incoming request, and it also changes the URL from the one which is going to go out in production, and the one which is already in production, that is V1, and it sends out, in this example, we see that this is hitting the GAN server, and once it gets a response from that, what it does is it wraps it around the already OpenAPI spec schema and sends it back to the Postman. Once it gets back to the Postman, the user who is using it, they don't get to see the difference, and they get to see the live data. So how do I know if it's the right fit for me? So with this infrastructure that we explained, that we are able to narrow it down that this is the right fit. It gives you a playground for the APIs and gives you a lightweight live data exposure that hardens the trust that this is a right fit for me. So it is like a fitting room where you get to use your API without even making the purchase, and you get the feel of the API as well. So the moment of truth, that with 0 lines of code that we written for this version 2 and 0 lines of code written for the development side, we still are able to give our consumer the flavor of the API and give them in this process a better trust and collaboration. So thank you for this, and if any questions, you can reach me out, and you can spot me by my look. It's the Pirates of Caribbean look I'm carrying from Barbosa, and thank you everyone.